Milwaukee, we need your voice. The Medical College of Wisconsin is conducting a research study to better understand the experiences of young black men with police in our city and how those experiences impact mental health. If you're a black man between 18 and 30, including transgender men and non-binary individuals assigned male at birth, we want to hear from you. This is a one-time confidential interview where you share your story, help shape solutions, and get $75 for your time. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Let's work together to improve mental health and policing in Milwaukee. For more information or to sign up, call or text 414-436-6568. Again, that's 414-436-6568. This is your chance to be heard. Let's make a difference together. Welcome to Pulse Check, Wisconsin. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is Dr. Ford, Pulse Check, Wisconsin. I wanted to welcome you all back. We are currently recording more episodes for the upcoming season. I appreciate you all reaching out on social media, following us, liking our videos. But also I wanted to touch base about some of the goings on this summer. One of the big stories was the nursing strike at Meriter Hospital in Madison, Wisconsin. I did a portion of my training at Meriter Hospital coming up through emergency medicine. So I know a couple of people who are at that facility and have worked with them in the past. I wanted to reach out to a couple of my colleagues to not only catch up, but also to share some of their experiences with this strike, talk a little bit more about what this strike means for those of us who may not be in healthcare, those of us who don't know the specifics of what is going on. So I have Nurse Graetel here to see where we ended up with this strike, as well as the amended contract that eventually came out of it. A couple of things that came up during our interview were patient safety. A lot of that has to do with the nursing to patient ratios that we see in the emergency department, that we see in the hospitals, hospital-wide essentially, to make the patient experience as safe as possible at all of our hospitals in the state of Wisconsin. The other thing came up was what we essentially closed our second season out with our interview with Nurse Erica, and it has to do with the employee safety, the healthcare worker safety. We've seen an exorbitant rise in healthcare worker violence, and we still continue to see it, not only in this state, but throughout the nation. And so one of the things brought up in this interview was to increase security measures at hospitals to make those environments safer for nursing staff, for all staff throughout the hospital. And so we'll get a little bit more into that with our interview with Nurse Graetel. Let's go ahead and start our interview. Thank you so much, Graetel, for joining us. We have Nurse Graetel here with us, as well as Darla May in the background, too. I wanted to get you on because I wanted to talk about some of the experiences. We're seeing a lot in the news right now about Meriter and SEIU that's going through with you guys as well. A lot of us just want to know, kind of from your perspectives, what are some of the things that we're talking about? What are some of the things that led up to this strike?
I am Graetel. I have been a nurse since 2008, mostly specializing in emergency medicine and transport medicine. And then in the last year and a half, I have transitioned over to vascular access reasons, a lot of it being my mental and physical health.
Mm-hmm.
As nurses and as physicians, we are terrible at taking care of ourselves.
Yes.
So I finally decided that I needed to be my best. And so in order to do that, I completely switched focuses in my nursing career. And that's one of the really great things about being a nurse is you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But two, I ended up going back to Meriter. So I was an ER nurse at Meriter for 6 years, went to UW for the ER there for 18 months, and then did pediatric, neonatal, and adult transport for 7, and ended up, you said, coming back to Meriter. And honestly, Meriter feels like coming home. So just like the support, the commitment, the middle management leadership is fantastic. So that's me. Yeah, Meriter's been in the news a lot recently.
And for background for our listeners out there, Graetel was at UW when I was training there too. Was very much responsible for the doctor that I am today, just for all that I learned from her and some of the colleagues that she worked with as well. So very, very much thankful for you, and I'm glad that you're in a better situation right now in terms of that career shift too. Because like you said, a lot of times we don't take care of ourselves in a situation, and we all have a big clock above our heads, ticking, and so I'm glad that you're able to get that. Like you said, Merida was like going back home for you. You started there as an ER nurse, and you came back. With things that are going on right now, what inspired you to participate in this? Because it's a huge strike that we all saw, like national news even. What inspired you to participate in this strike at Merida Hospital?
Honestly, that wasn't just for me. It was for everyone. It was for the new nurses coming out of nursing school, the nurses who went through nursing school in COVID who don't know any better, the nurses who went through COVID who, I have coworkers who literally set up bedrooms in their garages because they weren't going to go and expose their family members to this. And the nurse that I want to be in, 10, 15 years, I participated for all of those people because we deserve better. We deserve safety. We deserve safe staffing. We deserve to be able to go into work and not worry about, am I going to get hit today? Am I going to get punched today? Is there going to be enough security at the hospital? And is security going to be trained enough to do hands-on to protect me and my staff? Or am I going to have to wait until 911 gets called and Madison police get into the hospital and get up to the unit that I'm at where something is going on? There's been a lot of, they're just in it for the money. They're striking for the money. Those were not our big things this year. Yeah, getting paid more is always nice. But the two big things this year that really truly pushed us to strike were safety and security. We are the one major hospital in the Madison area that does not have a weapons detector in the emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
There was one point a patient was admitted for, I think, like 2 weeks, and come to find out on discharge day, he had a loaded gun.
Okay.
The entire 2 weeks that he was admitted. Child and adolescent psych is off-site. It's about 20 minutes away. So they routinely don't have security there. There was apparently a parent in the parking lot there who had a loaded weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So safety and security, and then safe staffing. Our ICU is 2-to-1. So one nurse for 2 patients once in a while. So if they're on CRT, it's a 1-to-1 patient.
Mm-hmm.
And then very, very, very rarely, if they have multiple step down patients, it's 3-to-1.
Mm.
Those are gen care patients.
Yeah, that's not an ICU patient. Yeah.
Those are ICU nurses. Our IMC in the last year actually just maxed out at 3. But again, IMC patients, full cares, food vax, IMC can take up to 0.1 of norepi.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are intubated, but CPAP, BiPAP, high flow.
Yeah.
That's, 1 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then our gen care floors. So gen care on days can take up to 5.
Wow. And that's 5 patients for one nurse there. And so for listeners out there, that it really strains you, especially, when you're on the floor, when you're by yourself. Let's say Gretel walks into a room and she's walks on the floor, she's taking care of 5 patients. If something goes wrong with 1 patient or 2 patients or 3 patients, you have to page out the doctor. That's going to be a delay. You're going to have to, try to titrate the medications, things of that nature. That's going to be a delay too. And so, what really she's speaking to is a safety issue, for that patient care, right? Her license is on the line, patients' lives are on the line too, which are the most important. And so that all this is really straining, her as a nurse, as well as just straining your career in general. Like you're doing days and days of this, this 5-to-1 ratio, and it wears on you.
And that's just day shift. At night, sometimes, Chris, on one floor, they can have up to 7 because people sleep at night, which is 100% not true in the hospital.
Right. Right. I know I never do. And so, one of the things that I read about in the reports about this case was more so, it was a back and forth, right? And that's what led to the nurses union striking at that point in time. What was some of the initial response? Because what I'm hearing is, pretty clear, right? So we need safety, which is something that we talked about on prior episodes. We had Nurse Erica come on and we talked about healthcare worker violence, and this is something that we're trying to shine a light on, as well as being in the pits, so to speak. And then also, this patient ratio. Now, how did management respond to this? These initial demands?
So and I was not on the bargaining team. So this is like, from the bargaining team, we were allowed to tune into the bargaining live. The union itself wanted to be able to have nurses have a voice in the matrix. So have a voice in patient to staff ratios. Management was adamant about not putting that language in the contract, because if they had to go above the matrix, we could file a grievance.
Mm-hmm.
So they were adamant about not having that language in the contract, and then adamant about, we have an internationally recognized security team.
Mm.
They paid for a certification. So, management kept putting out that it's the economics. Yeah, we started off high. I know we started out with what we were asking for. We came down millions of dollars on the economics, but management would not move on the safety and the staff ratios. They literally just kept turning in the same proposal.
Mm.
We would make minor adjustments, turn it, give it to them. They would turn in the same proposal, like verbatim. They just wouldn't even change anything. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. And so, management says, like, upper leadership of Meritor says that they have been, quote, preparing for this for 6 months. We've only been bargaining since January.
Mm-hmm.
6 months ago was December. So they have been preparing to essentially say no before we even came to the table. So finally, after I think it was the first bargaining session, we gave them the 10-day notice to strike.
So this had been going on for a while, right? And so like this is the thing, right? A lot of people will only see the striking aspect, but they don't have that context to how long this has been going on, how long in advance this had been given before.
Yep. So bargaining started in January. It is June 1st, 2nd right now, and we gave them the 10-day notice to strike. Then, so that was on a Friday. And then we came to the table again on Monday. And it was the same thing. I know that because I tuned in that Monday for just like, we were still totally pushing safety and security and safe staffing, but they were pushing economics. On that Monday, we came down $4 million. So with across the board raises, it's not even a cost of living raise.
Right.
So yeah, so $4 million the union came down over a 2-year time frame. Management would not budge on the safety and security. So that's what did it.
And we talked a little bit beforehand, too, about some of the responsibilities that still existed, right? So the reality was this: you all went on strike for a very good reason. Patient care still had to continue as well. How was that remedied? And what daily responsibilities and interactions with patients, how was that impacted from the strikes?
So there have been, some of our coworkers didn't strike, which we were all like, if you can't, that's fine. We get it. But me personally, I stand with my coworkers. So during the strike, in talking to some of the people who were still working, the strike nurses, they didn't talk to people. They interact. They just did their thing. There have been quotes in the news from a patient that says, I was there prior to the strike and I'm still currently there with the strike nurses. The care has declined. I am late for pain meds. They're not flushing my IV. They're charting things and then leaving meds unopened on countertops. Thursday, I think it was, over the course of a day, and don't quote me on this, but I mean, you can. From what I was told, there were 15 rapid responses and 2 in one day.
Oh my gosh.
And I honestly don't think that would have happened if we would have been there.
Yeah. And, for those listeners too, those rapid responses are people, who for a number of different reasons in the hospital, somebody passes out in the foyer or somebody falls down and is on blood thinners, for those codes too, people who literally their heart stop, right? Or they stop breathing. So those are incidences like Graetel is on the rapid response team. So she'll go there. She'll start IV, she'll draw up medications, start compression, things of that nature. And a lot of times we see them in the hospital, but at that volume is usually indicative that something is missing or, something went wrong in the care of that patient to have that much.
Wednesday, we were told that one emergency general surgeon, all of the vascular surgeons, and then another surgeon, I'm not sure who that third surgeon was, but they all said, we are not doing surgeries the rest of the week. You told us we would have adequate and appropriate staffing, and you don't. General surgery, all of our vascular surgeons, and another one. Are you kidding me? That is huge, huge.
And, that shows some of the solidarity too. My limited experience in working at Meritor, I believe we rotated there on the OB wing during residency. And, you can kind of feel that familial sense, right, amongst, all the staff, right? Not even the nurses, the techs, the doctors, et cetera. And, that really speaks to the fact that it is very fortunate you all have that. And then you also have the unions versus other hospitals in the state, in the nation too, don't have that union and don't have that ability to speak back. Can you speak to your experience in that respect? At least having a voice.
It is huge. So when I worked at UW, they were trying to get the union back. If I made a little mistake and I got called into my boss's office, my heart rate was in like the 130s because I was either going to get fired, disciplined, or who knows what, like it's insane the different feeling that I have from working where there is no union to where there is a union, and I can say, no, they have my back. I know that even if I'm called into my manager's office, I can say, cool, I want my union rep, even if I didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to abide by that.
So just recently released yesterday, I believe, was that there was a tentative agreement, at least at that time, which has since been ratified as well. So congratulations.
Thank you.
What were the outcomes?
So they have in contractual language stating that they are going to increase security, verbal communication saying that they're going to also increase security numbers. We are getting a weapons detector in the emergency room, right, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then in contractual language, it states that essentially the floor nurses have a say in their matrices.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be, I think it's like a new council. It's not going to be unit council. It's not going to be management, but a new councils are going to be formed to make the floors and the staff nurses have a say and a voice in patient to nurse ratios.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's a start, right? It's a start in going in the right direction. Especially having someone there who has been in that situation before, and knows kind of firsthand what those experiences are, like what a patient that needs more, means to someone versus the actual number, right? It could be like, 3-1, but if this patient is requiring, wound changes or, maintenance of certain medications, like all those things are going to play into that factor too. And so how do you feel about some of the compromises that you guys made from your end of the negotiations? Do you feel like, it is that walk in the right direction?
I do. I feel like it is a walk in the right direction. I feel like in 2 years when we bargain again, there will be more push in the next 2 years when we bargain again for more clear and concise contractual language. But just the fact that we got it in there to begin with is a massive win.
Mm-hmm.
It is a massive win for nursing. It is a massive win for patients because then they actually have a nurse who has an appropriate number of patients that they are safely, because we now have the voice to say, this is what we as a nursing staff can take care of and can take care of safely and appropriately. And there are a lot of studies that show lower nurse to patient ratio, better outcomes for the patients, less readmission rates for the patients, and just overall better patient satisfaction.
Absolutely. What lessons have you and your colleagues learned from this experience? I don't know if this has been your first strike that you've had the opportunity to participate in, but like what are you going to take from this experience?
We are a team.
Hmm.
Like, I met so many people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. I go to Babyland to start IVs and put picks in, but the solidarity between the labor and delivery nurses and postpartum and antepartum nurses coming over to the tower, they, as a labor and delivery nurse, their ratios were lower to begin with because as a laboring mom, you kind of need like a one-to-one nurse there to, walk you through your epidural, your
Hmm.
and you're pushing your checks. So the fact that the labor nurses were over supporting, we call it the tower. So Meritor is kind of sectioned off into there's an east wing, a north wing. The north wing is Babyland,
Hmm. Hmm.
antepartum, labor and delivery, postpartum, and then the NICU is all over in Babyland. And then the tower side has the emergency room, OR, pre-PACU, Gen Care, Neuro, ICU, IMC, and then surgical. So the fact that they were over there standing with us as well was amazing. Like the team spirit, the fact that even though they had it good, they were still standing with us so that we could have it.
That's fantastic. You spoke a little bit before we came on about, some of your management and like the great relationship that you have with your management too.
Yep. Yep.
Like I said, in a lot of places that I've worked, I can't even count the number of hospitals that I've worked at this point in time. That relationship sometimes is there and sometimes it's missing, and that's just given the size of those places or given how impersonal it can be, the environment that you work in. But how do you envision the relationship in the future between nursing staff and hospital management?
So we went back to work yesterday. It was tense and that's really truly unfortunate. Like we as striking nurses got emails stating, no comments, no snarky remarks, no hostility. Well, we came back to unfortunately some of the middle management being upset at us, stating, hope you enjoyed causing all of this chaos for a dollar
Mm.
raise. I think that our middle management was put in a super hard spot. Like you said, so many places are just they're thrown in and they get to check all the emails, say all the things, and take all the heat. My team is technically under mobile unit. So, or like the resource pool unit. My mobile unit management is fantastic. Every day, Monday through Friday, if they're in the building at 11 o'clock, they meet with my team.
Hmm.
How are things going? How are picks going? Do you need more support? Is there anything that I can do for you? I hope that relationship continues. In my opinion, my team and like mobile unit itself, because we do go everywhere and we kind of see everyone and interact with so many different people, we're very used to the flow and the fluctuation and, turning on a dime and saying,
Hmm.
well, hey, you're going here, you're going here. And I think that really truly is the embodiment of our managers as well. So I think that they will be able to still continue to be there with us and do what's best for the patients.
Because at the end of the day, that's it, right? Like that. This is why we're here, right?
Why we are here. We are here for them. I don't know about you, but I got into this industry to help.
Hmm. Absolutely.
I didn't get in it for the hours because the hours suck.
Hmm. Hmm.
As a nurse who works in the hospital, I work every third weekend. I work holidays. I miss birthdays. I miss anniversaries. I miss going out with friends on a random, Friday night because I work 8 to 7 p and I have to be back at 7 a, So I didn't get in it for the schedule.
Hmm.
I got in it to help people and to help patients and to help people feel better and to be there, on the patient's sometimes the worst day of their lives. And not only patients, but family members
Hmm.
as well, because sometimes it's a family member's worst day of their life.
Absolutely. And you're the nurse for the whole family.
You are the nurse for the whole family, not just the patient. But yeah, so like that's really, in my opinion, what this strike was for.
In looking forward, so we had the governor come on and we talked about some of the plans that are in place right now in order to address the looming nursing shortage throughout the state of Wisconsin. And as we see in institutions like your own, right, when nurses have a voice and they're able to do this bargaining with the hospital system, we see some nurses that are powerless in some situations too. And, that's wearing on them. Their careers are being shortened by the day, given the fact that they don't have that voice. So just to kind of close out, what advice would you offer to nurses in other institutions who are facing similar challenges that are being faced, throughout the state, throughout the country? What advice would you give them?
Take care of yourself, because honestly, in my opinion, in all reality, we don't have a nursing shortage. We have a bedside nursing shortage. As nurses get older, or nurses who come into the field fresh, they realize that it's not worth getting kicked, working the night shift, working the weekends. Take care of yourself, because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else. And again, whether that's at a union hospital or a non-union hospital, it still stands true. Like, my mental health is exponentially better getting away from the toxic management and the toxic "you're just a number" at other hospitals. Like, I could call bosses right now and be like, "Hey, what's up?" And we could literally just have a conversation. So I now have supportive management, supportive coworkers, and I'm learning through lots of therapy.
Which is also, I recommend a blanket for every healthcare provider, across the board.
He's going
Yeah.
there. Even if you just sit there for the hour, doesn't matter.
That's your hour. It's your hour. No, absolutely.
Yeah. My recommendation to anyone in the field is take care of yourself.
Well, Graetel, again, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Many congratulations for what you all accomplished. Hopefully this is kind of the first step in a long journey of continuing to push the envelope, continue to make our hospitals safer, not only for us as healthcare providers, but also for our patients too. So thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. Big shout out goes to the nursing staff at Meriter Hospital, to the allied healthcare staff as well, who helped them fight for the advances that they got, as well as SEIU here in the state of Wisconsin. I want to thank everyone for listening to this episode. Again, we're going to continue to push for safer hospitals. We're going to continue to push for safer healthcare worker conditions, as well as safer environments for us to help you get better. So if you come to the emergency department, you shouldn't have to worry about if your nurse is tired, if your nurse feels safe at your hospital, if you feel safe at your hospital. Those are things that should not be at the forefront of your mind. It should be more so getting better. For those of you who are interested, we recently completed a collaboration effort with Milwaukee-based Artery Inc. There is clothing available, shirts as well as jackets that are available to highlight healthcare worker violence. The campaign is Heal Not Harm. And so we'll have that link available on the website for Pulse Check Wisconsin. You can go to the Artery Inc. link. As always, you can always follow us on social media at Pulse Check Wisconsin, or you can follow my own personal social media. We'll have those links available for you. So with that being said, we are currently recording the rest of season 3. We are excited to get some of those episodes out. We got some really good interviews done thus far, and we are very excited to get it out to you guys. Looking forward to doing that. And with that being said, as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and if you need me, come and see me.